there's a lot of people worried about climate change and the impact on industry and finances and everything else in the world. And some people want a complete solution today. Just cut all the CO2, cut everything that makes CO2 out, stop burning all fossil fuels, which is a great idea. But what you end up with is a financial collapse, business collapse, food collapse, and collapse of your economy. And so that would just lead to instant chaos. However, there's a whole nother theory that the Japanese came up with called Kaizen. And what Kaizen means is constant iterative improvement, like lots of micro improvements that either reduce what you don't want or increase what you do want. Well, it turns out we've got an inventor and we got president of Zelchem onto this today. He's passionate about decarbonizing, passionate about increasing efficiency of all the different industries out there that use diesel engines. And he's got an incredible product that we're going to talk about because it's important. If people don't know about it, they can't use it. So Brian Livingston, welcome to Life Success Tools. I'm excited to have you on because climate's a big issue, but also so is the economy and so is living. So I wanted to have you on today to talk about what you put together.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Really appreciate being here. And yeah, I'm pretty passionate about decarbonization. And I don't think it's as difficult as people make it out to be. Getting to carbon zero, yeah, that's difficult. But making some incremental improvements like you're talking about, I don't think that's so difficult. There's a lot of things out there that can help you do that. I represent one of them. But yeah, let's talk about that. How do we get to where we want to go without crashing the economy and basically turning the planet back to the Stone Ages?
That's right. Well, as you and I were talking earlier, it would have been wonderful if this invention had come to light. Well, let's even say in the 60s, because I was born in the 60s, right? So it would have had a wonderful trend line. But right now we've got just literally, I think, probably millions of different diesel vehicles in the world that could use what you've got on hand available to install and immediately have huge efficiency increases for these businesses, right? So tell us about the different aspects of it. So tell us how it works, first of all, just real briefly for the non-technical people.
Yeah, sure. In fact, let me grab a prop here.
Okay.
This is essentially what the invention is. And it looks like a copper tube filled with stuff because that's what it is. It's a copper tube filled with expensive rare earth elements and such. And those act like catalysts. And it just kind of briefly, you put this in your diesel fuel line as your diesel fuel flows in here. It contacts all those rare earth metals, and they tend to break apart some of those long chain molecules. So you go in with some nice long chain diesel molecules, and some of them are converted to shorter chains coming out. And then you just put that right into your cylinder, right through your fuel filter, whatever, the normal diesel engine. And you get a better, higher efficiency combustion.
Right.
And why that matters is when you have a more efficient, you're going to use more power to push that piston down, and you're going to produce less emissions as well because you're more efficient. So bottom line for this technology, we claim like 5 to 7% of fuel efficiency, better mileage, if you want to call it that, and lower emissions. And we have gobs and gobs of tests, laboratories and customer tests and everything, to back all that up.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. So let me see if I understand this properly. We're talking, first of all, you're going to lose some of that inefficiency in the engine by increasing the efficiency. So you've got a more efficient burn. Second of all, that means you're throwing less pollution into the atmosphere because you're using less fuel.
Yes. So there's kind of two different things. If you're burning 5 to 7% less diesel fuel, well, then you're obviously producing 5 to 7% less CO2, right? I mean, it has to be. Yeah. But the other thing is, if you're more efficient, you produce less other stuff you don't want, like NOx and soot, particulate matter, which is soot, and carbon monoxide, those kinds of things.
Right. As we know, NOx is also a greenhouse gas like CO2 is, right? So
it is.
This is really important there seems to be like there's 3 different groups of people that will be interested in some invention like this that you've actually had in the market for how long?
Well, the invention itself has been around for over 20 years.
Right.
I've been involved in this business for about 6 now.
Right. Fantastic.
And so, yeah, and I bring the chemical engineering background. A quick background: was chemical engineer. about 40 or so years, and about the last 20 years was with Caterpillar in their diesel engine division. So I get the chemistry and I understand diesel engines. So that's why this is a good fit for me, and I can actually understand it.
Right. So you're coming from different industries to create an opportunity that's different and new for the industry that uses diesel, right? For the big diesel cats, all the big mining trucks, trains.
Yeah.
Actually, why don't you go down the list if you would, and share with us what are the types of vehicles and engines that can use this. So, for example, locomotives, trucks,
Yeah.
diesel
I mean,
generators.
anything that drinks a lot of diesel, right?
Okay.
Because it changes the fuel. It doesn't really change the engine. It just starts to break apart those long chain molecules. So anything that uses diesel, yeah, mining trucks, locomotives, all kinds of port equipment, shipping, maritime, electrical generation, if you're using, diesel electric generators. It even works on like diesel fired or number two oil boilers or furnaces, which there's a lot of those around the world. Because again, it's not really affecting the engine; it's affecting the fuel. So if you're
Right.
just spraying fuel into a boiler, then it works great there too.
Wow. So, what about long haul diesel trucks?
Yeah, that's a great market.
Hmm.
Um, I'll go through some quick economics for you.
Sure.
If you put one of these things on, you get a payback in about 12 months on um, a normal truck. In the U.S., in North America here, it's about 120,000 miles per year, the average truck. And so you kind of do the math and you get about a 1 year payback on that. Now, if you go to something that drinks a lot more diesel, like a locomotive or mining trucks or something, then that return on investment shrinks to significantly less than 1 year. So you're talking 200 to 600% return on investment.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
we've seen this in a lot of different industries, and I'm not just making those numbers up. Those are from customer testing and customer reports and stuff, real data.
Wow, that's fantastic because you know I think that you've got a cost. Anytime you've got an engine like that, you've got a cost for running it, and that
Yeah,
cost is a top line cost, right? I mean, it's really
absolutely,
expensive to run, and if you can drop that by 5 to 7%, you're taking money right off the top and putting it back in your pocket.
absolutely. Yeah, that means this one drops straight to the bottom line really fast.
Wow.
Yeah, like in trucking, you mentioned fuel. Diesel fuel is the number two cost of a trucking operation. So you take 5% out of your second highest budget number, that's going to make some difference.
Yeah, absolutely. The second thing I was thinking about was so we've got the fact that we're gonna need less diesel, right? I know there's a lot of pressure in the diesel world right now, so it's a really good time for someone to come in and say, "Hey, I can get you 5 to 7% efficiency increase." There's a lot of pressure in
Mm,
the diesel world worldwide. There's all the oil crisis stuff happening with the war in Iraq and all the Strait of Hormuz and all that. So the amounts being shrunk down. And on top of that, it seems like we're now with all these big data centers, they're all using diesel backup generators, right?
Well, some of them are, yeah. I mean, they're all trying to make yeah, we're really struggling trying to figure out how we're getting enough power to run all these data centers, So some
Right.
people are, some of the companies are actually putting a whole row of diesel gens in there or natural gas generators.
Right.
So yeah, we don't have enough power to do everything electrically that we really want to. I mean, that's one of our first problems. So we say that, for example, let's go everything electric. Well, we can't right now. We just can't. So diesel's going to be with us for a while. So hey, let's make the best of it, and let's cut down diesel where we can. I mean,
Right.
I understand. Let's go to zero, yeah, but that's not the way the world works either. We're going to have to take this step by step. And
Right.
here's a great step to get us part way there.
Absolutely. And I think this is one of the common misnomers that we have is that we can just stop everything all at once, which wouldn't make sense, like stopping your heart all at once and not having surgery to fix it. And
Right. Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, yes, we are going to make transition in fuels. That will happen. And probably, to be honest, the faster the better for the planet and for the different things. However, the reality is that it's not happening as fast as anybody wants it, but it is happening at a slow pace. It is happening, it's increasing. So anything that can be done to use existing infrastructure. So, for example, let's take trains. We had a big diesel locomotive. I love trains, by the way. I grew up along the train tracks in New York and loved it. So you got the big
Cool.
diesel.
Yeah.
You can feel them when they go by, right? You can feel the energy of them. And the fact of the matter is, rather than scrapping that amazing piece of equipment that's got maybe decades of use left in it, and trying to build an electric one, why not just increase right now today the efficiency that you have in your system by fitting every single diesel generating locomotive with this product?
Right. I mean, you take 5 to 7% off of the diesel. In fact, I have a couple of numbers here
Yeah. What do you got?
that we talked about. Um, for example, just the class one railroads. In the U.S., we have like the class one railroads, and I think there's 5 or 6 of those now. And then there's like the class twos and threes, which are smaller, more regional things. But the big guys, they use about a little over 3 billion gallons a year of diesel fuel. And so, if you think the number 5% is not that big of a number, well, who wants a 5% raise? We'll take one. But if we take that number and multiply that out, it gives you close to 200 million gallons of savings just in the class one railroads, just in the U.S. alone. And that equates to almost 2 million metric tons of CO2. So, I mean, yeah, this is significant. Yeah. And why not? Why do we do that right now? And the fact that it can pay itself off, the investment it requires for these devices, in a railroad that's running like a class one, you probably pay that back in about 3-4 months. So that equals what, 300-400% return on investment. Yeah. Why don't we do that right now?
I think we should. I think we should. So let's really quickly run through the classifications. We've got what's the smallest diesel vehicle that this would make sense for? Like an 18-wheeler, kind of a cab?
Probably about an 18-wheeler or so. I mean, if we've got a smaller unit that like construction equipment or something, that it'll work for that. People often ask me though, hey, will this work on my diesel pickup truck? And I say, yes, of course it'll work, but it may take you several years to pay it off.
Right.
And actually, several years to pay off something is actually not a bad deal. Right. But what I'm trying to do, come in swinging with 100% or better return on investment, is where I try to keep things. That's the kind of the people that I go after.
Yeah,
because 100% or more ROI, you got people's attention.
That's right. That's great. So you're talking about the typical 18-wheeler tractor trailer that you see on the highway. Then you got your mining trucks, your mining vehicles, your big heavy equipment. You got your port facility equipment, things like that. Yeah, you got the locomotives, obviously, right? And you said ships before. Is that? I thought they used bunker fuel. Is that similar, or what's that?
Well, a bunker fuel is even a longer molecule,
okay.
And messier and uglier, if you will.
Right.
And this will break down any of those molecules into shorter molecules. So, I mean, it does work. A couple of problems you have with bunker fuel is it's so heavy, you have to keep the fuel lines heated. So it doesn't gel up on you because they're long chain molecules, more like Candle X, if you will,
Right.
But, just wrap your heat tape around this too. Keep this warm so that it all flows through, and you're going to get your savings that way. But also, bunker fuel is being phased out around a lot of the world.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see that too much longer.
So is there an opportunity? What are they upgrading to? Are they upgrading to diesel?
Well, something like diesel. Yeah. If you can think of molecules, just the shorter they are, the cleaner they are, pretty much, until you all get to natural gas, which is only one carbon, which is the cleanest. But so you can kind of think of it that way. So just make it shorter, and not burn so much junk, if you want to call bunker fuel that.
Right.
Yeah. It's got so much, other stuff in it.
That makes great sense.
Yeah, you basically just have to refine it a little more, which raises its cost.
Okay. And then the last category, I guess, is the diesel generators or backup generators, or someone using it to generate electricity for a system.
Yep. If you're using a full-time diesel gen for electricity, this is a great invention for that, because it just takes 5-7% just right off the top right there. If you're using it as a backup generator where you don't run it all the time, then you have to do the economics. How often do you run it versus the cost versus fuel savings and all that? Now, and I can help with that.
And what about, I'll get onto what for some people is a touchy subject. What about military? Tanks are diesel, aren't they?
Yes, most of them. Yep.
You got a lot of military equipment, all the big heavy carriers, all that kind of stuff. They're all diesel, right? So
yes.
And the U.S.
Now,
military.
talking about military here, there's something interesting. Most military equipment does not have to obey all the same laws that commercial
Right,
vehicles do around the world,
right,
around at least in our country, but around the world is too. And one of the problems you have with a diesel is it gets smokes a lot. When you're really pouring it, pouring the fuel to it, you get some unburned hydrocarbons and soot, and that actually can kind of give the enemy where you're at. If you see puffs
right,
of big black smoke coming out. And this was not invented for this purpose, but this does reduce soot a lot.
right.
Can be over 50%. So if you're in a part of the world where you don't really have to worry about soot going out, or this you're not have to do that by law,
Right.
you might want to put one of these on to reduce the soot, like in some other country, perhaps a diesel bus.
Right. Right.
Buses are famous for bus fumes and having all that black smoke and stuff. Well, put these things on and you eliminate that you reduce that black smoke significantly.
Right. Right. Well,
Yeah.
and plus, let's be honest. Anytime the military burns diesel, it's our tax dollars. So,
Well, that's right. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Whatever country you're in, it's your tax dollars going up the smoke. Yeah.
Now, what about this? It seems that if you're turning this into shorter chain, cleaner burning fuel, that's going to mean that the whole system is probably cleaner, right? So you're actually you're having less maintenance required on the system when you use this in your diesel product.
Great observation. Yes. In fact, what we have found, you think about, like, let's take oil. Why do you have to change your oil? Because you get volatile organics in it and you get soot in it.
Yeah.
And if you're burning more efficiently, you have less volatile organics and less soot, your oil is going to last longer.
Okay.
And so, you can extend your oil change interval, which again is for an industry, that's money. Second thing is, though, if you think about soot, it's tiny little abrasives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're wearing those in your cylinder. And so you're wearing out your piston rings, your cylinder liners, your valve train, things like that. And if you've got fewer abrasives in there, it's going to last longer.
Right.
We don't make any promises for this, but our customers have told us that they can increase their time between overhauls by about 50%. Because you're just cleaner. Well, yeah, you're cleaner. You think about it, you're taking out the stuff that wears out engines, so it's going to last longer. Yeah, 50%. That's a pretty serious number. I mean, yeah.
So what we're really looking at is this product, this device, this technology is actually having multiple impacts across the life stream of all the different diesel products and generators and so forth, engines and everything.
Yeah. And there's even another one for those of us who live in these where the higher emission control countries, like the U.S. and Europe, et cetera, and a lot of other countries too. But there's an invention called the diesel particulate filter. And what that does it takes out all the soot.
Right.
Now, if you're in a lesser regulated country, you don't have to have those. But it's basically a filter that takes up the soot. And when it gets enough soot so that there's enough back pressure, you're starting to labor your engine a bit much, it senses that. And then it sends through a lot of hot exhaust to burn off that carbon. And those of you who have DPFs in your equipment on your fleets, you know that it's maybe not the most reliable piece of equipment yet. I'm sure the industry will do better, but right now it can be a lot of trouble. And so if you're putting less soot into that thing in the first place, it's going to have to regenerate or burn itself out less often, which costs fuel. And of course, the more you do that, the shorter the life is, the more you cycle the temperature. So it's in the right direction for making your DPF last longer, and you're having to regenerate the thing less. So that's another bonus. Yeah, more efficient is always better, right?
Right.
For everything.
Efficiency. So, I come at it from the climate angle because I work in climate, and I have lived in New York, which was pretty polluted, and the Hudson River, when I was a kid, you could fish in it when GE didn't throw a flush of stuff down the river and kill the fish. You had all the fish along the riverbank, but you couldn't eat them. You couldn't eat them. You still couldn't eat them up until I think you couldn't eat the fish out of the Hudson River until the late 2010s or teens.
Wow. So
now it's clean enough. So I really believe that we have the ingenuity, the capacity, the technology, and the engineering to improve things until they need to change, right? So these little step points, like with your phone, right? You had the regular flip phone that looked like a little brick with an antenna on it, and then they made all these micro changes, and now we have smartphones, which are making us dumb. But nevertheless,
That's beside the point.
aside the way, these are not the drones you're looking for. But the fact of the matter is that increments like you're providing, incremental improvements in efficiency, reductions in cost, reductions in pollution, reduction in CO2 and NOx, all of these things are wildly beneficial, not just for the industries they serve, but for the investors, for the people like the guys who are running their own truck fleets, the small truck fleets. That's a cost. And by year 2, they're putting money back in their pocket, right?
Yeah,
So,
right, absolutely. Yeah.
This is what they call the win-win-win scenario. And I just think this ought to be front page news on every automotive, podcast, every single industry-wide, magazine and information email. I mean, this is just a killer product. So,
I mean, it really is. I mean, and it's all absolutely verified. A lot of people can talk about this and that, and what a wonderful thing it is. But I mean, I have stacks of data from laboratories, customers, etc., showing the effectiveness of this. In fact, when I first got out of Caterpillar and found this invention, I was a little skeptical.
right.
It's like, wait a minute, I've worked for the largest heavy duty, diesel manufacturer in the world here, and I'm not aware of this. What's going on? But so I had to do my homework on it. I was very skeptical at the beginning, but once I understood the chemistry and read the whole, read the reams of reports, I talked to customers. I actually flew down to Florida and interviewed the company, met its president, met the inventor of the technology from back when, still a friend of mine, and customers, even ex-employees, give me the skinny on this thing.
Right.
And after I did all that homework, boy, I'm a believer. Let's go.
Wow. Well, let me ask you.
Am I going to stake my reputation on this? After doing my homework, yes, I am.
Wow, that's fantastic. So let me ask 3 questions. First, you showed us a sample of it. Is that the same size that fits in every product, in every vehicle or diesel use, or it's the same one, or do you make a large one for the big giant, ore trucks and stuff like that?
Yeah, good question. No, this is one of the larger ones.
Okay.
Now, on some engines, like a locomotive or something, we'll use 2 of these because they have like on a big V block. You have all these feed points on your V's in cylinders, and so we'll put one on each side of the V block if it's a very high horsepower.
Yeah.
But we have 2 sizes smaller than this.
Okay.
For like on-road trucking, would use one that's slightly smaller, and then for like some smaller construction equipment,
okay,
something up to maybe 250 horsepower, we have a smaller unit for that as well.
Nice. And then how long do they last? Typically, let's just take a long haul trucker, and then the locomotive examples. How long do they last, and can they be refurbished, or what do they do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And you're kind of getting to the heart of why marketing this is a little tough sometimes, because everything we've heard so far is great news, great news, great news. Well, when somebody tells you that something is just perfect, it kind of turns on your skeptic hat.
Right.
Well, I'm going to add a little fuel to that fire, and that it really never wears out.
Okay.
It doesn't dissolve into the fuel. And once you understand how a catalyst works,
right,
you don't dissolve anything into the fuel. I call a catalyst more like a hydrogen magnet. It'll pull some hydrogens off of that molecule. The molecule rejiggers itself, if you will, into 2 shorter chains,
right,
and then you give that back, just like on a magnet. You put something on, you can take it off again, and so it never really wears out. We've had them out there over 20 years and still working. In fact, what I tell people to do is when you sell your truck, just take this thing off and put it on your new truck.
Wow.
Now, most people don't remember to do that. So, but anyway, yeah, and again, you don't have to really pay any attention to it. You install the thing once, it just sits there quietly and does its job over however many years. Gets covered with dirt. People look in there and they don't even know what it is. It's just a lump in the fuel line that's got dirt and crud all over it. And, nobody pays any attention to it.
Right. And by the way, I love your example of the hydrogen magnet because, I love magnets. You can pick up a paperclip, remember from like elementary school, pick up a paperclip or 5 with a magnet, take it off and do it again, you can do that for the whole life, and the magnet would never lose its, it's not going to lose the magnetism into the paperclip, right? So
Yeah, yeah, and that's. I if somebody wants to dig into this deeper with me, I'd be glad to do that. And by the way, let me throw in a quick pitch here. If you want to get a hold of me, decarbonize5.com. Go there and set up a meeting with me. I got a little video and some other things. I got some calculators there for you too to calculate what this might be worth. So decarbonize5, think 5%,
right.
decarbonize5.com will get you to me. But anyway, if you want to do that, I have some cartoons I've made up and some videos and stuff that kind of show how this works with the molecules and stuff. It's a bit much for here today, but if you're serious about it, yeah, set something up with me. I'll show you how it works. And I'll show you how Catalyst works and kind of explain why it never really wears out.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Two last questions. One, do you have international distributorship, patents? What's the story on all of that? How does that work?
Yeah, we do have international patents on this thing. And we have a number of distributors around the world. I work with a number myself. It's kind of funny. A lot of them are ex-Caterpillar people or people that I ran into over my Caterpillar years that are now, they see me doing something else. Like, hey, how about we work together on this? I'm like, sure. Yeah. We had a good collaboration back at Caterpillar. Let's do it on this too.
Do it on that
So,
too.
yeah, we have pretty much anywhere in the world to get you this. And again, it ships out of the U.S. So, and you don't need a lot of service or anything. You just install it. I'll give you full instructions on how to install it and all that. But once you install it, you kind of just walk away and forget about it, for X number of years.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we don't really need a service network around the world or anything.
Wow, I love it. I love it, and I just want to thank you again because I don't drive a diesel vehicle myself, and certainly not one that would be sizable enough to.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't mind driving a locomotive for a day. That'd be a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, there you go.
My grand uncle up on New York used to be on the Central Hudson line, and he was back in the day, this would have been in the early 30s. They still used coal, and they were shoveling coal, all the time. And my little quick story is that my dad went there when he was 5 years old, got the train ride down to New York and back, and my grandmother put him in a white suit. That's how that went.
Oops.
Oops. Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
Well, I've been able to, because of my long years with Caterpillar and working with customers in all kinds of diesel applications and stuff. I've done locomotives. I've done lots of equipment, large equipment and stuff. So I've had a lot of fun too.
Wow. That's fantastic. Look, again, I want to say thank you for this product. Thank you for getting it out there, not just from the efficiency standpoint, but for the investors and the companies. But most of all, from my point of view, for sucking 5 to 7% of CO2 and NOx out of the stream that's going out there every day. So that's a radical positive improvement, and we need thousands of those. And I think people should start with you. And where can they find you? Give that website again, and we'll put it in the show notes. But say it again.
Yeah, decarbonize5. Think 5% savings, which is kind of a minimum. Decarbonize5.com will get you there, and some calculators that will there's some sliders in there that are kind of fun. You can play with, figure out what you might be able to save, not only in money, but also in tons of CO2. It's kind of fun to be marketing something that the world needs. I can sleep very well at night, marketing this because I know that the world needs it. I know it's a good thing. And I'm very proud to have, my reputation behind this.
Wow. Brian, I love it. I love it. And if I could snap my fingers and have this put in 2026 into every diesel vehicle and generator that's possible, I would do it. So this video is the next best step for me. Thank you so much for your time. Let's just do this one more thing. If you could speak to anybody in any industry where they've got a diesel generator, diesel engine, diesel locomotive or truck or any vehicle of any kind, what would you tell them that they need to know right now? They need to take to their purchasing manager or their VP or whoever they have in engineering about their vehicles, about how they could use this product today. So what would you tell them to go say to their managers?
Yeah, well, again, you go to decarbonize5.com and you can kind of look at those calculators and figure out yourself what this is actually worth for your company. But one of my favorite people to talk to really is the poor, beleaguered sustainability champion or decarbonization champion that almost every company has. And they've been given all these lofty goals, but very little budget to work with.
Right.
So they're supposed to just make stuff up or what. And I love to be able to help those kind of people because they have a lot of goals, no budget, and I can give them something that decarbonizes significantly and provable and measurable. And while they can also give their operations people or their whole enterprise uh, a project that'll pay back in a year, 6 months,
Wow.
2 months if you're a use a lot. And so that can help you get the project approved because it's not only going to meet your goals of decarbonization, but it's going to be a winner for the enterprise on an ROI and investor basis.
Fantastic.
That's what I like.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, this has been a pleasure. I look forward to talking with you again. I'm super excited to hear about your progress, and we're going to put this out there and see how many people we can get this in front of.
All right, great. Well, I look forward to keeping you in the loop, Jonathan. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
You got it, Brian. It's a pleasure, and I really appreciate what you're doing out there.